What's up, everyone? We're live in the Behind the Genesis, the birth of AI business automation podcast. So, I'm John, and this is my co host, Fortune. So, for
Nice to meet you.
for this podcast, I'm the co-host and Fortune's the co-host. So be a brief introduction of the host. I'm John. I'm an AI automation expert. I have my SEO agency, and Fortune, if you would like to introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name is Fortune. I'm a sales expert, 12 years sales experience.
Awesome. Can you tell me more about the sales experience that you have?
Yeah, so I've worked for several companies as a salesperson, sales manager, things like that. And I've also started my own companies where I've sold and produced my own services. So in the past 12 years, I learned a lot about sales, how to sell anything, how to connect with people, and, how to manage a sales operation and, make efficient processes to sell products and services. So the products and services I've sold are in a wide variety of industries. Past 5 years, I've been in the real estate industry. I've also sold jewelry, supplements, travel packages like vacations, including flights, tours, and hotel nights. And sold credit repair, credit consulting services, sold some other things as well. Sold computers, used to build and sell computers. So yeah, just sold a lot of stuff to a lot of people, and yeah, I'm happy to share my knowledge about sales with y'all.
I actually wasn't able to ask you more information about you selling computers before. Because all you said to me was you built computers and you sold them. Can you tell me more? I like computers and I want to learn more about how you did that.
Yeah, so then when I was 16, 17 years old, this was about 10 years ago, 10, 12 years ago. Um, I just started kind of randomly learning about like computers. I always liked computers, and I think I saw like a video pop up one time on YouTube where it's like, here's like build a computer. And yeah, so I just yeah, I started telling everybody I wanted to build a computer, and then my mom's boyfriend let me build a well, yeah, he actually let me take apart his old laptop and put it back together, and then take it apart, put it back together again a bunch of times. That helped me get into the swing of like working with building computers. But then I was like, I want to take it to a whole nother level. I want to get the materials or the supplies and put them together to make a computer. So worked with my dad all summer to make a couple $100 when I was 16. So that I used that money to buy computer parts. Like this is like a desktop computer. So this was, you getting power supply, you getting a case, you getting RAM, you getting a processor, you getting a motherboard, um, and yeah, just everything needed to, fans, everything needed to power the computer. And yeah, so pretty much the whole summer I worked on, building my first computer. And yeah, after that I built about 4 more computers and sold all of them. Didn't really make any money off that, but that was my first kind of um, pursuit of business, trying to, make money and sell things.
For a young guy, 16 years old, starting a business, I mean, I think you've spent hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on just basically using those money to create computers. It's actually great that you didn't lose any money. I mean, breaking even at such a young age, man, it's amazing.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it. I mean, yeah, I mean, I tried to sell them on like eBay and stuff, talk with everybody I knew, and people weren't really willing to pay more than the cost of material, but thankfully, at least they paid the cost of materials. So I was able to sort of keep using the money to build more computers and sell those.
How long did it take to build one of those computers?
Yeah, so the first one, I mean, once I actually got the supplies, um, it took me about a day or two to put the things together, to put the supplies together so that the electricity was flowing in the right places for the computer to work. But then I also had like software issues, which then took me like a week to get around for it to finally actually start working like a regular computer. But after that first one, I could build a computer within like a day once I get the supplies. Now, the research to get the supplies, that usually took a while, like a week, because the technology is constantly improving. So I would have to do the research on, okay, what's the new thing out there? What's the price of everything now? Um, and yeah. So I mean, that was kind of fun as well, seeing the new products to be able to use, build those
Awesome.
computers.
And if any of you guys haven't heard before, he actually also is amazing in creating jewelries. I was able to see some of his creations through his Instagram, Gross Alcy. Is that correct?
Appreciate you, brother. It's
Grow
Grow
AV.
Wavy.
Amazing work. Yeah. I mean, if you guys are hearing this, you should go into Instagram, check out Grow AV. Amazing, amazing one. I think most of them are one-to-one creations, right?
Appreciate you, brother. Yes, they are one of a kind creations, each of them.
And from computer to jewelry, why did you make that switch? I mean, from creating this technology state of the art to going back to creating this more of a relaxing jewelry. What made that happen? Why did you do that?
Yeah, so the journey going from, building computers to making jewelry, um, took a couple of years. Like, yeah, I mean, in between building computers and selling computers and then making jewelry, I was in college for like my freshman and sophomore years of college. And during that time, I just knew I wanted to be an international businessman. I knew I was good at learning languages, so I majored in learning languages, German and French. And and I was also like, okay, how can I make money too? So then around like my sophomore year, started thinking like, okay, how can how can I make money? So I got the idea to sort of become like a programmer, like an Android app programmer. I thought that was gonna make a lot of money. If I could like make an app that would like go viral and everybody would download it and use it and shit. But yeah, I actually found it very boring to do the programming and yeah, also dealing with school and other shit. I just didn't delve very deep into that. But um, then yeah, just like kind of towards the end of my sophomore year, uh, met some people in my school who like crystals, and they would tell me about the energy the crystals had. They would carry around these crystals. They'd wear these crystals and like necklaces and stuff, like amethyst, citrine, and quartz and stuff. Um, and they would say, "Oh yeah, this makes me feel better. This helps with such and such. This helps with my energy and such and such." So I was like, I'm kind of curious. I want to kind of feel the energy if there is some energy. So at the same time, I was getting into Tai Chi, and my Tai Chi teacher was saying I needed to get an Ankh, ancient Egyptian symbol, because there's like power in it. So I was like, okay, well, I want to buy an Ankh because my Tai Chi teacher said that good for energy. And I also want to buy crystals. So then went on like Etsy.com, where you can get handmade stuff. And yeah, I was very surprised to find they had Ankhs, like the ankh shape, made out of crystals. So I was like really amazed by that. And I was like, I need to get that. So bought it. It was like $60. And yeah, as soon as it arrived in the mail, I felt like energy from it. It was like this big, like 5 inches long. It was just so cool. Like it felt like a spiritual piece of technology that anytime I felt it, anytime I held it, I just felt powerful. So and it's like I would literally feel like energy flowing through
So
my
it
veins.
actually works. It
Like
works.
it worked for me, yeah, yeah, and it worked for other people too. And so once I got that and I was feeling energy, I was like, wow, I wanna share this with everybody. Like felt like a life hack, you know. So then I just started learning more about the crystals, because I was just so amazed at how many different crystals there were and how they all had different energy and different stories and history behind them. Um, and then I started seeing, how many people were making a living off of selling these crystals and making jewelry with the crystals and selling the jewelry. And I was like, dang, you know, I like working with my hands. Didn't really see like the computer building business to be like very sustainable. Um, and then yeah, I was found the programming to be boring. I didn't know what else to do to make money, so I was like, all right, I'll try making jewelry. Um, yeah, I mean, actually, it was called Organite, um, which is like a collection of resin and crystals. The resin is like glass, so it holds together the crystals in these different shapes. The ankh I got, it was Organite. It was pretty much glass, which held crystals inside of it in the shape of an ankh. So I saw people making a living with Organite, pretty much the glass shapes that had crystals inside of it. They can make it into jewelry. They could just make it into different shapes and have it sit on your desk and stuff. So I was like, okay, people are making money with this. I like it. It worked for me. I'll try to make it myself. So started off with Organite, and yeah, I was able to sell a couple of those Organite pieces. People were loving the energy of them. I was loving the energy of working with them, making them. And then people started asking me, oh, could you make this into a pendant? Could you make it into a necklace or a ring or a bracelet? So it sort of created a demand for or at least I realized that there was a demand for like Organite jewelry, uh, at least in my city too. So then I started to make Organite jewelry, and then I realized Organite jewelry, it can get ruined pretty easily. You can drop it and it'll crack and shatter, which then makes it sort of worthless after you pay so much money for it. And then also, if you wear it in the shower or you wear it when you're sleeping, it can start to become sticky and sort of melt, which also makes it, not really nice anymore. So I saw other people making jewelry with just the crystals and the metal, and I was like, dang, that's a lot more sustainable. You don't have the problem that come with the resin from the Organite. So yeah, that's when I transitioned into making jewelry with just the crystals and the metal, no resin, and that's the majority of pieces that I made. Those were crystals and metals, no resin, and yeah, I mean, junior year is when I really started to make a lot more jewelry pieces because I started making money with it, like with organizing jewelry the summer between my sophomore and junior year in college. And then when junior year started in college, I had already made some jewelry pieces and sold them. So I was like, I'm gonna show all my friends in college. I'm gonna make jewelry while I'm at college, and yeah, it was great. I made a lot of jewelry um, my junior year at college, and then I saw my friends graduating with $200,000 in debt and only making $40,000 a year at their job. Seemed like it was gonna be forever before they paid it off. They didn't even like their job. Whereas I was like, okay, I have a business already. I like what I'm doing. I can see myself doing this for like 40 years. And if I leave college early, I'll only have, $25,000 in debt or whatever, um, instead of 40,000 or whatever. So I had like a scholarship, but still, it was accruing debt every year. So yeah, I decided to leave my college junior year, middle of junior year, to fully pursue my jewelry business, and did that for 6 years. So that's a bit of the story there. How I got
And
started with it.
by the way, how I think most people are wondering how long does one of those jewelry pieces needs to work to be done? It's a few days, a week.
Yeah, so it varied a lot. I mean, the short answer is like an hour, just a simple one, and that's after me having put 13,000 hours into the craft. My first one I ever made, it took me like 2 hours, 3 hours,
That's good actually.
and that's after I.
That's
What is
good.
it?
2 to 3 hours, something you haven't done before. It's amazing.
Appreciate you, man. Yeah, I mean that was after I had the materials and all the tools in front of me. In order to get all the material and tools, it took several weeks research and buying the stuff and then having it come get delivered and the shipment. Um, but yeah, I mean, yeah, I've been able to work faster, or get get like a necklace done faster now that I'm just a lot more used to the motions. Some pieces are a lot more complicated, so some pieces it's taking me days or weeks to make. 50. My longest piece took about 54 labor hours over the span of like 2 weeks. Um, and I've had some other pieces that took like 40 hours, 50 hours over the span of a couple weeks. And yeah, some other pieces took 10, 20 hours, but yeah, most of them were simpler. So they took about 1 to 2 hours a piece,
And
simpler one.
for anyone who is interested in creating a business like yours, jewelry business, how much money do you make on something like that so that people have a simple idea?
Yeah, yeah. So I'd say jewelry varies a lot. I can say from my experience, um, I wasn't really making much money with it. But to give you an example, right, there's copper pieces, silver pieces, and there's gold pieces. So with a copper piece, let's say it's a simple copper necklace, I've sold those from anywhere to $20, anywhere from $20 to $800. Most of them sold for between $50 and $100. So let's say I sold it for $50, um, and took the copper costed about $2. The cotton cord for the necklace costed about $1. Um, I mean, you have to buy these materials in bulk, so it's not like it's not like you just plan to make one piece and you order just enough to make that one piece. It's sort of like you got to buy a bunch of copper, you got to buy a bunch of cotton cord. But anyways, if I just narrow it down to like how much the actual material costs per necklace, that's how much it costs. $2 for the copper, $1 for the cotton cord, and then at certain times, like earlier on, I didn't have a polishing machine, so they didn't look as nice. The pieces didn't look as nice because the copper was oxidized and was sort of darker, not really shiny. Um, so for that, there was no cost for polishing. But then later on, I got polishing equipment, which was somewhat expensive. So to get the polishing equipment, it was $300 for the flex shaft, which is like a motor that you can hold in your hand that spins something at like a very fast frequency, so it could spin a little like buffing wheel for me to polish the jewelry. And that sort of pays for itself over like a long period of time. And then also a polishing cabinet, which is like a standalone polisher that was like $500. And each of those things could polish like thousands of pieces. So, you know, it's a lot of variables, It's like if you don't want to polish it at all, okay, boom. $2 for the copper, $1 for the cotton cord, and you got to pay for the pliers to bend the metal. So the most basic piece you could do it with like 2, 3 different pliers. Each set of pliers costs like $20, so it's be like $60 for the pliers. So it's like you got to buy these tools as like an upfront initial cost. I recommend having like $500 to $1,000 to buy these tools up front, uh, or at least just have it set aside to have it so when you need a tool you can just get it. The pliers are gonna be $60 to get 3 different pliers. You're gonna need to pay $20 for them cotton cord because they only sell them in these big rolls. So $20 for cotton cord. Okay, you buy $50 worth of copper. That's gonna be able to make you 25 pieces, 25 simple copper pieces. And then the crystal is like $2, $3 a piece if you buy each crystal individually. You can also buy big bags of crystals that come out to like 30 cents per crystal, but you got to pay like 20 bucks on them. So, yeah, I mean, if I buy all the materials in bulk and then I divide, like the stuff so that I'm like, okay, how much did I pay for this, material for each thing, each jewelry piece? Then yeah, it's a pretty low cost. The materials, it's a simple copper piece, $2 for the copper, $1 for the cotton cord, and then the supplies. Yeah, that costs a couple $100, but it pays for itself. So you can like not really factor that in as to like this particular piece. And then yeah, you can sell the piece for $50. Now it does take an hour or two to make it, so you got to factor in time, how much you're gonna pay yourself for your own time. So yeah, I mean the profit, is sort of debatable, because do you want to factor in the cost of all the long-term supplies that are paying for themselves over time as well? Like for example, if you got a $500 polishing machine and I can polish 1,000 pieces, then that pretty much costs like 50 cents per polish, so you can add that in as a cost, but yeah, it's just a matter of how you want to do the accounting. But yeah, I mean, it would allow me to make a piece, sell it, make a piece, sell it, and sort of build up some cash there. And rather than just sort of keeping all the cash that I made, I might make $45, on a smaller copper piece, but that's not paying myself labor. For the labor, it's just okay. Business bank account, it's got $100 in it. You sell the piece, you get $50, $50 more dollars. And it's like you already bought the supplies. But yeah, I mean, let's say it's like that. Now you have $150 after you sold the piece, and it's like okay, I'd buy more materials and make more pieces, and then I get more money. But I'd always just keep buying more materials, and I had living expenses too, and rent and electricity and stuff like that. So I wasn't really able to save a lot of money with it. So yeah,
You know, I
copper
respect
piece.
that, man. I think
Yeah,
that's
no,
one part of the business that people don't understand. There's gonna be a very long time where you're just basically recurring revenue and you're just putting it all back in your business. You're getting some for your living expenses, for the cost of your materials, and people don't understand. What keeps us going isn't the money itself. Because if you want money, I assure you, for the first 5 years of your job, it's easier to make money on a job. instead of starting a business. I mean,
Yeah.
I think you understand that how easy it is to make money on a job because you don't have to be high performing. Like on your jewelry
Yeah.
business, if you stop, you're done. You don't have any jewelry to
Yeah.
sell, and that's the end of the basically the money coming into you. And most people doesn't understand it.
Yeah.
If you're in a job, if you slack off for a few weeks, for a few months, you still have your salary. And
Yeah.
that's why most people when they start a business in the first 6 months they shut off their business. They see no money and they think, everything's about money. No. And I will tell you, if you want to start a business, it's about passion. Most likely it's about passion. Most of the people that you see succeeding in their business, they're passionate about it. They're willing to sleep on the floor. They're willing to not have a ton of cash on their savings account. They're willing to risk their future just because they want to do what they love. And I think people doesn't understand that on a more granular scale.
I feel you, man. Okay, I mean, definitely, I'd say passion is a huge driver for entrepreneurs. Um, and then also getting into an industry that has a demand for it as well. Yeah, like there were times where I started businesses just sort of based off passion and went, I made some money with it, but I realized after a while there wasn't really enough demand to make a lot of money with it, or maybe I just wasn't thinking creatively enough to make money out of the opportunity. But yeah, I mean, for me, at least nowadays, well, thinking about starting a business, or if people are looking to start a business, um, I think it's important to have both like a solid like business model where it's like, okay, people that are doing this are making a lot of money. I can do this too and make a lot of money. And then if you can have that passion aspect where it's like you enjoy what you're doing, you see it as something you can do for 20, 40 years, um, you know, then, uh, then that's what I'd say is a great choice for a type of business you want to start.
And a question I want to ask you, if let's say instead of spending 6 years on making jewelry, spending that time on learning computer science and coding, do you think you would be able to actually spend that much time on coding? And I said you said it's boring, and I do understand that it's boring because a year ago I actually was trying to learn coding as well. Have all these books, I have all these courses, and it's fucking boring. Yeah,
I
one
hear you.
hour in and you don't want to continue. Do you think if you were promised, hey, you would make 10 times more money in this 100% guarantee, would you have spent that 6 years on coding?
Mm-mm. I don't think I would have. I mean, because I already got that sort of sense. Like, it seems pretty guaranteed. Like, yeah, if I could become a master coder, then I'll make a lot of money. Um, yeah, I mean, at that time, I didn't really have as much discipline as I have now as well. Um, so yeah, I think I still would have done, um, you know, what I did, which is like just focus on jewelry. Um, but it's like, yeah, for me to like say, if I could do it all over again with the knowledge I have, that's it's a tough one. I mean, yeah, it's like I think I would have done some things differently. You know, yeah, yeah, because I'm seeing now, after stop living with my parents, how important it is to make a lot of money, and yeah, even though I do, value those years of business experience I got, and craftsmanship experience I got from making jewelry, I think I might have Um, yeah, I think I would have chosen to do something like real estate, possibly. That would have probably netted me more money in the span of 6 years for me to then be able to be like, all right, yeah, still really interested in making jewelry. Now I'm a millionaire. Now I can just focus on making jewelry pretty much for the rest of my life, as opposed to being broke for 6 years making jewelry, and then you know uh yeah, like trying to find other ways to make more money after that.
No, real estate is a very interesting field. It's one of the highest netting possible profits out there as a job. I don't think people understand that. And real estate, uh, I've heard somewhere that real estate is never a person's first choice when it comes to a job. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, because real estate jobs are typically known as real estate agent jobs, where you work for a brokerage and the brokerage helps people buy and sell real estate. And so, number one, that one of the things that turns people away or makes people not want to choose real estate, like being a real estate agent, is the fact that it's usually commission only. So it's no salary typically. Um, and so that way, you're probably working for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, maybe a year before you even get paid a penny. And you're working long hours. I mean, the people that become successful with it, they work long hours, 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours, 16 hours a day for a long period of time. I'm talking 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months to close their first deal. And when they close their first deal, they might make 10,000, 5,000, 20,000, maybe 30,000, depending on if they're residential or commercial real estate. But it's usually not a super big check, their first deal, because they're less experienced. They're probably not going to be able to get those bigger deals, which require more trust and more experience typically. Um, so yeah, I mean, the people that do stick with it and put in that dedication for several years, 2, 3 years, 4 years, like they start to do very well, making six figures. But yeah, definitely most people quit within the
Few
first
months.
3 months, 6 months, because they get any money, they're working long hours, and they'd rather have something more stable.
And yeah, and on regard of that topic, I think it's gonna be, it's not easy per se. It would be simple to dominate it as a real estate agent since most of your competitors are looking at real estate as their last resort. If you have your passion, if you're studying 5 hours a day on how to sell a house for a few months, I think people would actually, do good. Do you think about that?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you can definitely uh, outwork your competition in real estate. I think it's a fairly simple business model. It's about volume, a lot of it. Um, you got to talk to thousands of people. Pretty much the person who talks with 10,000, 20,000, 50,000, 100,000 people going to be a lot more successful than the person who only talks with 5 people, 10 people, 100 people. Because the more people you talk to, the better you're going to get at talking with people and, creating connections with them, um, as well as the more people you're going to find that are going to want to do business with you. Um, so real estate is a lot of competition. Each homeowner or each property owner is receiving a bunch of calls, at least typically. They're receiving a bunch of calls every day, every week, every month from people trying to sell their property or buy their property. And they're very tired of it, getting 10 calls a day, 50 calls a week, 200 calls a month. They keep saying, no, 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 I'm not interested in selling. And people just keep calling, keep calling, keep calling. So, these are the type of people that you're calling to try to work with them, and they're already sort of turned off to not want to work with you. So, um, you pretty much got to call thousands of people if you're doing cold calling. You can also do door knocking, which has a higher conversion rate, but it requires that you live in a certain area. You got to walk. Um, yeah, and it's more taxing on the body as opposed to sitting in your room cold calling. So yeah, I mean, there's other ways to market, but uh, cold calling definitely been pretty popular these past couple decades with real estate. And yeah, I mean, yeah, yeah, you got to talk to a lot of people, and yeah, I'm trying to figure out like, did I answer your question
I
well
mean, you
enough?
did great on answering the question. You basically said
Yeah,
volume negates luck, which I think is a saying of
yeah,
Alex Hermosi, if I'm not wrong. Just an amazing quote, by the way. Also, for people who are cold calling, yeah, thousands of calls, even in cold email. Every single day, I'm sending 2,000, 3,000 emails every single day. And you only receive, I guess, 30 replies, 80% of them telling you to fuck off or leave me alone,
yeah,
or if you don't stop, I'm gonna report you. Most of them don't. If they report me, I'll just get rid of the domain. But yeah, they get pissed off.
yeah,
I mean, imagine being a law firm, you receive these emails, hundreds of emails every single day because your business details is in a database, and you're receiving these emails.
yeah,
All of it is the same, and all of it saying, "Hey, I can help you with this particular problem," and nothing stands out. I think that's what makes them pissed off. And I think what the importance of volume is very high in any industry, real estate, uh, sales, marketing. You're selling a house, you want to buy a house. I mean, you were buying and selling storage facilities. And did you also do cold
yeah.
calling for that, by the way?
Yes, yes. So did over 15,000 cold calls for self storage investment company.
Well, how many self storage facilities are in America? Because I don't think there's a lot.
There's about 55,000 of
Really?
them.
Oh
Yeah,
man, it's a lot. And how do these facilities make money? So I've never understood the model ever. Like,
yeah. So they make their money by renting out storage unit to customers. A lot of different reasons why people need storage units. Um, Number one, Americans love to buy physical items and pretty much buy more things than they can fit in their own house. Um, so they start to sort of clutter up their house with all these things they buy, and then when they want to move somewhere, they're sort of sentimentally attached to these things like their couch, their chairs, and stuff like that, and because they have memories with them, and they might have important documents that they need to hold on to, but they don't want to carry with them to the new place, and stuff that they don't use every day, but they don't want to throw away, but they have to take it out of their place they're moving out of, and they don't really have space for the new place, so they put it in storage. Um, yeah, other reasons, there might be a divorce, and people need to take all the belongings out of a house very quickly, and the husband and wife, they haven't found a new place to live yet, but for whatever reason, oh yeah, I guess they need to clear out the house in order to sell it quickly, and so they put their stuff in the storage. And college students use storage units a lot. They'll live in a city. Um, for example, a lot of colleges are like international colleges where students from all over the world come to study there. So, for example, my college, Wesleyan University in Connecticut, um, we had students from pretty much every continent, um, a lot of different countries, and when it came summertime, and they weren't living at the school, they had to find a place to put their stuff, so they put their stuff in storage units, and that's pretty much what all college students do all around America. They put their stuff in storage units during the summer, and that's part of why the occupancy rates for storage units spike to pretty much 100% in the summers, because college students And then after the summer, the occupancy rates drop slightly because the students move back into their apartments or their dorms, and then they take their stuff out of storage. But a lot of people, uh, they'll think, oh yeah, I'm just gonna get a storage unit for one month, 2 months, figure the stuff out, then move it out and throw out what I don't need. But Americans are very, they're actually more sentimentally attached to their things than they think they are. It's very common in the storage business where people will pay way more to store something than to actually than it actually is worth, like, financially. So they might have a $300 couch and some chairs that are like $200, and they'll spend $2,000 on storage fees just to keep it when they could have just thrown it away, bought a whole new set, when they needed one. But they're so, they just want to hold on to what they have, very risk averse, and yeah, they'd rather sort of spend their money trying to keep what they have. So yeah, they'd rather pay that $50 a month, $100 a month to keep their stuff instead of throwing it away and possibly having to pay a couple $100 again to buy new stuff. So yeah, and the storage industry is growing very quickly. A couple years ago, maybe 3 or 5 years ago, only 1 in 10 Americans rented a storage unit, whereas now about one in
Whoa,
five rented storage units. It went from 10% of the population renting storage units to now 20% of the population renting storage units. And each of them are paying, 50, 60, $100 a month. Some people pay more. And then there's also businesses that use storage units. Some businesses store their cars, their trucks in these larger storage units. Some businesses need to store their tools. My father was a carpenter. That was actually the first time I ever saw a storage unit, was when my dad took me to a storage facility when I was probably 10 years old. And my dad brought his carpentry tools and put them in the storage unit and locked them up in this sort of shed that was connected to all these different sheds. And yeah, occasionally we'd go back there, drop off some tools, pick up some other tools. But yeah, so many different businesses use storage units as well to store their tools, materials,
that's
and things like that.
100% increase, man. That's
Yeah, it's definitely wild. Um, yeah, especially also with downsizing, like a lot of older people um, that had a big house, like boomers, baby boomers. As they're retiring and sort of getting older, they're looking to downsize because they're realizing, why do I have this big house and paying this big mortgage or paying all these big taxes when I got all this equity and my property's worth more than ever, so I could sell it, cash out on a couple million or a couple 100,000, and then I can move into a smaller place where I don't need to take care of all these things that I have to take care of with the house. I don't have all the problems like have an apartment, and just live out the next 20 years of my life in an apartment. I got money, my children are taken care of. So that's what's happening, and these older people have a lot of belongings, and they don't necessarily want to throw everything away because, again, they got sentimental value to these things. Some things they've owned for 20, 30, 40 years, like a certain chair, or a certain sofa, or a bike or something like that, that they want to pass down to their family, or they just don't want to throw away for whatever reason, and they'll put in storage. And most people that put stuff in storage, they actually never take it out, so um, they just keep paying and paying and paying until eventually, some people can't pay anymore, and it ends up getting repossessed and sold at auction. But most people do pay. About somewhere between 70 and 90% of people pay. Actually, like 97% of people pay.
how much is that per
Um,
month?
I mean,
Let's say it's on square meters, let's say for 30 square meters. I don't know what that is on square feet. How
mm,
much is that per month? Something like that.
yeah. So the most common type of storage unit is like a
Uh,
10 by 10, a 10-foot by 10-foot storage unit. So you could put a small couch in there, a couple chairs, some other things like a nightstand or a cabinet, a file cabinet and stuff like that, a refrigerator. whatever you have in your house, kind of like a somewhat decently sized closet. Um, and those go for generally between $50 and $100 a month, or 50 to 70, sometimes $90 a month. Um, certain areas like a big city, it's gonna be more expensive compared to somewhere outside of a bigger city, because there's higher demand in the bigger city, more people, trying to grab these same amount of storage units. But yeah, I mean, when you get bigger and bigger in size, you usually pay less and less per square foot as well, kind of like buying in bulk. So
That's amazing. That's amazing
yeah,
pricing. For $50, not small enough to actually, get rid of it, and not big enough to be urgent on moving your things. I mean, I think they perfected it. So it's going so fast. I mean, if it's $100, people are like, "Holy shit! I'm spending $100 to store some things. I can rent a truck for a couple hundred, and I can move it to my new place. I'll just move it." I mean, I think U-Haul, or
exactly.
I think that's what it's called, U-Haul. Or I mean, if you $50, not that much, but it's still big enough to
Yeah,
compound over time. I mean, if you
exactly.
reduce the price by 30% and you get 300% more retention rate, that's amazing business.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a very solid, boring business. I mean, some people find it more exciting. I like the fact that it's a bit boring and it's business model, very predictable. Um,
That's where the money is, man. That's where the money is. Boring
yeah,
businesses.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's I think it's the fastest growing sector of real estate in America right now, beside something like warehouse distribution centers for like Amazon or stuff like that, or maybe like senior housing, um, and yeah, maybe one other kind of thing. But it's definitely up there, like top four fastest growing sectors of real estate in America for not only this year, but yeah, past
Correct me
couple of
if I'm
years.
wrong. I think 4 years ago, the economy is so crazy in US that you can basically buy anything. And just
Yeah,
now, the economy is so crazy, everything's so expensive that almost everybody is either downsizing or living on their cars.
yeah, yeah, yeah. There's definitely been huge inflation the past couple of years with COVID and after the whole COVID thing. To now, yeah, most people are not. Yeah, I mean, people were already living paycheck to paycheck in 2019 and 2018, but now it's like they get to the point where, yeah, a lot more people are living in their car. A lot more people are becoming homeless because they can't afford rent anymore because rent keeps increasing, but their wages stay the same. Um, yeah, yeah. So it's definitely not a good situation economically over there, I'd say. Although when it comes to the storage business, uh, people always seem to find, that $50 a month to pay for the storage unit, um, or that $100 a month, and yeah, it's very predictable. So it's a very turnkey asset, especially when it's managed well with like a property manager in place. Owner can pretty much have it as like a yeah, like a money machine, like they don't really have to pay attention to it. The property manager manages it. Yeah, they could check on the property manager once in a while, but as long as the money's coming to the account, they can look on the camera, property camera, surveillance camera, and see, okay, looks good. They can see pictures. They can come visit the property. Um, as long as they see the property looks good, they talk with the customers if they want. Customers say that everything's good. The money's coming in. They're happy. So it's the people are not really asking for much. They just want a safe place to store their goods, store their items, and there's just a way to go about it where yeah, you provide a great service, a good price, and yeah, I mean there's a lot of I mean there's like a lot of specific stuff that property managers know that I don't know because I was more on the sales side. but I can get a sense of like, yeah, like you repair it, you keep it up to, good shape. That's only a fraction of the total revenue. Um, and some of the revenue goes to electricity, which is very little. Some of these facilities don't even have electricity because it's an older facility and it just has roll up doors, like all manual crank roll up doors, and you don't need any lights. Just leave it off at night, and people can only open the things in the morning or in the day. And if they want to go at night, they gotta use their own flashlight or whatever. But yeah, I mean, a lot of these facilities they don't even have electricity. They're just pretty much steel boxes with doors and locks, and you give a person the key to the lock for their particular storage unit, and boom, if they don't pay, you change the lock or you lock the lock in a certain way where they can't open it until they pay, or so it's and you don't have to deal with all the
I think it's safer if there's no electricity in the self storage facility, because I think most of them doesn't have a person or a guard at nights, and if this electricity, the lights short circuit, then you're all fucking done.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I haven't heard of like the electricity short circuiting, although it is definitely possible wherever there is electricity, like panels for things short circuit. Um, and then since it is real estate, you have property insurance, or at least the owners typically have property insurance, so that if there ever is a fire, or there is a tornado, or there is a flood and things like that, then you can pretty much have the insurance cover the cost of the damage and the cost of repairing everything. So it's a very safe investment. I don't often hear stories of people getting into the storage industry and then not making any money. A lot of people just get into it as a hobby and it just makes passive income for them. They put a little time into it. A lot of them manage it themselves, so it takes them a couple hours a week. Um, but yeah, I mean, most of the people I've talked to who own storage units, they don't want to sell them because they're like, where would I put my money? If I put it in the stock market, it's more risky. It might go down. Uh, it might, the stock market might crash. But the storage unit is right there. It's right next to my house. I can see it every day. People pay me every month and pay me way more than stock would pay me if I, sold this and bought stocks with it. So, and they're like, oh yeah, why would I do residential real estate and deal with all those tenants and deal with squatters and people who, move in the first month, they pay you the first month and they never pay again, and it takes 6 months to a year to kick them out. In the meantime, you're paying all the expenses and it's a freaking nightmare. So, uh, yeah, they don't, they would rather just keep the storage unit. They see it as like kind of like a magical, uh, yeah, like a magical like golden goose that lays golden eggs, and they call it that. Literally, they're like, why would I sell
I
the
mean,
golden
yeah, man.
goose?
Genuinely, I mean,
Uh,
how much does the S&P 500 increase per year? 7%, 8%,
yeah,
and that's a good year. I mean, if these
yeah,
storage facilities can increase their price at least 10% every single year, that's a 10% increase. Plus, they have the property prices going up like crazy. Yeah, yeah, they're not gonna sell.
exactly. And in commercial real estate, the value of the property is typically heavily um calculated based on the revenue and the money that the facility is producing. So when you increase the revenue of the property by 10%, you're usually increasing the value of the property by 10%. So, some of these facilities, you could raise the price by 3% per year, 5% per year. Um, and, some people, they don't raise the price at all. So that when you do come in and raise prices, you can raise them by 30%, 50%, 10%. So that way, as an investor, when you come in, you're making money several different ways. Um, yeah, there's actually three main ways investors make money on storage facilities. There's other ways too, but the main three ways: number one is by raising rents. Number two is increasing occupancy. That is renting out more of the storage units, because a lot of the owners don't rent out all the units. They don't have the optimal marketing. They're not trying very hard with their marketing. So if they have 100 units, they might rent out 70 or 80, call it a day. They're not really trying to put in that extra effort to rent out all 100. but we as investors would put in that extra effort, or hire a property manager that would put in that extra effort to rent all 100 units, or have it as a one strategy is like to popular strategy is to not rent 100% of the units, but only 90% of the units, because that way that's a sign that your prices are good where they're at. If you're at 100% occupancy,
You
that
have a low
means
price. Yeah,
you can
you
raise
have a
price.
low price.
Yeah. So you want to get to 100% occupancy and then raise prices
Some
where,
of them, if
most people are
yeah,
going to stay, a couple people leave, but yeah, when you're at 90% occupancy and you can't raise the price anymore, that's when, you got the best price you could possibly get. And that's called like stabilizing the property, where it's just, it's doing the best it possibly can do pretty much in that market. Uh, Yeah, and then also adding more units. So, for example, you might buy a facility and it's on a plot of land that has enough room to build more storage units on it. So that's a very common thing. We'll buy, or we would buy a storage facility that might be 10,000 square feet, and it's on a plot of land that's maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 acres, which then has enough space for us to build another 50,000 square feet of storage units, which then allows us to 5, 6x the revenue of the facility. Um, and yeah, pretty much 5, 6x the value of the property. And yeah, when we build the facility, certain times, depending on the cost of the materials, you can profit by building more units. With COVID, the cost of materials increased a lot, so it doesn't seem like there's been as much building. Um, but people are still building, because in some areas it is still more profitable to build and add more units. And for example, if you're in a city and you're the only storage unit in town, and this happens somewhere, this happens in a lot of cities or areas where you kind of have a monopoly, or you as the owner, you're the only choice people have to go to get storage units. So a lot of them have wait lists, so they got units, all 100 are rented. They got a wait list that's 50 people long. So as soon as one opens up, as soon as one storage unit opens up, they got another 50 people that are ready to pay, move their stuff in. So they're always fully rented, which is good in a sense. But how they can actually capitalize more on that is building more units, because that way, boom, they can build 50 more units and have all 50 of those extra units rented all the time, because there's constantly 150 people who, are willing to pay. And if there's a lot more people than that, they could build 500 more units and have them all rented out all the time. And that would just drastically increase the value of the property and, make them a lot of money typically when they build those units and rent them out. So yeah, major ways, you can make money as an investor in the storage business is raising rents, adding more units, and increasing occupancy. Now that's as a buy and hold investor. That's how you're going to probably make the most money. Wholesaling is also a way to make money when you first get started. The way to do that is to have an agreement or get an agreement with a seller for them to sell it to you at a certain price. And then you find a buyer and get them to agree to buy the property for a certain price, or actually buy your rights to buy the property at a certain price. And you pretty much have the new buyer take your place in the original purchase contract, and you charge them a fee for that. So you can charge usually between $20,000 and $50,000 per deal for a wholesale fee on a storage deal. Usually it's for a storage facility that between $200,000 and $500,000 purchase price. So yeah, let's say this is one deal we did. We found a seller who was willing to sell at $180,000, and we found another buyer who was willing to buy it at like $200,000. So we pocketed $20,000 by setting up the deal. Everybody wins. The seller gets his $180,000. The buyer gets a great deal buying it for $200,000, because he's gonna put some work into it, and then it'll be worth double or triple or quadruple. And we made $20,000, not even having to lift a hammer. just by pretty much talking to people and compiling information and getting contracts signed. So yeah, those are kind of how the storage business works.
Awesome. So let's get back on that topic. We actually stayed away from the topic for far too long, but great stories, by the way, Fortune. And yeah, we created
Appreciate it.
this podcast, AI Business Automation. And what do you think is our main goal on why we created this podcast?
What do I think
Yeah.
our main goal is? Yeah, so I would say the main goal is to make money, um, have a lot of people on the podcast, help them make money, um, and yeah, spread the awareness that
AI is coming for you.
yeah, AI is coming for you. If you're not using AI, it's gonna be harder and harder to not get left in the dust. And then if you are using AI, we're gonna show you how to use AI in certain ways you may not have seen, so that you can use it even more and increase your efficiency even more. And we'll show people who want to get into AI or start using AI how to get into that. And yeah, pretty much help people to avoid getting replaced by AI and help people to continue to grow their business and stay in business, with this rise of
Yeah, and
AI.
it's crazy. The last time we were on the call with Dr. Nick, I actually looked over the Air.ai. A few years ago, I actually did looks at that software and they still weren't out, and now they are. And the cost per minute is, I think, 10 cents. That's the cost per minute of you. Basically, you have a salesman, a salesperson, a contact support that answers every question. Still have 100% consistency on the brand voice. And I think a lot of people or a lot of these big companies will go to that option and will not go to the call center's BPO company. So they have to pay them a lot. They still have to train them. They still have to let them know about what things not to say on the call, what things to say on the call. And a lot of people are going to get replaced. And that's just on the BPO sector of things. And I think in the next few years, 5 years, at least 20% of the jobs will be replaced by AI. And I don't know what's going to happen for the economy on that time.
For sure.
And let's get to the next topic. What type of content do you think we should produce for this podcast? Who are we going to be inviting? What kind of industries? Why we were going to be inviting those people?
Yeah, so as I starting off with real estate investors would be a good start. Something I've experienced in the industry as well. I think be easier to facilitate conversations with people like that. Um, and maybe branching off into more people that are in the real estate industry, maybe real estate agents, real estate investors, real estate lawyers. Um, and then, from there, being able to go into other types of people, different types of businesses, all of which, would have that need to automate the tasks that currently are being done manually.
Awesome. And for the people listening, the reason we partnered to create this podcast is because Fortune have an extensive experience in sales. I mean, for the whole 1 hour, he was talking about computer, jewelry sales, how to start a jewelry business, how to start a self-storage facility, how the business work, the business model. And I know he have a lot of things, value to offer to the different people that are going to be attending our podcast. And my job is to look at those things and see what things could be automated. And one of the biggest reasons why I was able to have the time to create this podcast, because it's gonna take at least 2 to 5 hours of my time every single week, is that I actually did automate most of my business. I have my own SDR, sales development representative. I created in just 2 weeks using just simple CPU automations. I have somebody answering my emails, somebody selling the people, somebody moving them up the value ladder. That's why I'm able to do this podcast and have more free time. And I think that's what's the biggest reason why automation is amazing and why it's gonna replace most people in terms of jobs. It's because they're easier to train. I mean, they don't make mistakes most of the time, right, Fortune?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. They're easier to train. They don't make mistakes most of the
I think
time.
I showed it to you. Was I able to show you my SDR?
I think you did show me some
Yeah,
screenshots.
and yeah, that's our main goal. And just more personal info about us because we are past 1 hour. Wow, it's a long time. So just more info. 2 years ago, Fortune and I met. I messaged him on Instagram. I think it's in one of his stories, if I'm not mistaken. And we talked. We actually did converse a lot, became friends, and told him, "Hey, Philippines is an amazing place. Philippines, you should visit Philippines." I think I convinced him in the matter of 3 months, if I'm not mistaken. And he moved to Philippines actually for I think 2 months or less than 2 months. Yeah, it is my fault why he left so early. And I was so young back then. I wasn't able to tour him anywhere. I didn't even have my license. So for people, I'm just 18 years old. I didn't have my license. I wasn't able to tour him. I was just, I think, 1.5 year in the business world, starting my agency back then, still working for somebody, still doing marketing consultant. And yeah, I had no time back then, but now I do have more time. So if Fortune visits Philippines again, I might be able to tour him then.
Awesome.
And yeah, Fortune, did you have anything else you want to talk about?
Nothing else really comes to mind at this time. I'm sure we'll have a lot more to talk about on
Oh
other
yeah,
episodes.
what is like a day in your life? I mean, you're currently living in Thailand. Do you like it?
Yeah, I love Thailand. I love Bangkok. So my average day, I start off doing some fight training, like MMA fight training. Then I'll do and a lot of the MMA fight training is like grappling, and then I'll do like a striking fight training after that. It's usually Muay Thai or Western boxing, which involves just punches and kicks. And then after that, sometimes I'll get dinner, sometimes I won't. But uh, throughout the day, I'm also like messaging team members, the AI consulting, AI automation business, as well as other businesses I'm involved in. But I'm more involved as like a passive investor in other businesses, just so I can fully focus on yeah, this business, the AI automation business, and fighting. Um, but yeah, I mean, I just like to talk with friends as well. Catch up with friends and discuss business and business ideas and stuff like that. And yeah, around midnight, might get like a massage or something, or maybe a bit earlier than that. And yeah, I usually have meetings around like 1 a.m., 2 a.m. with team members as well as potential clients. And I might get rest around like 4 a.m., 6 a.m., and then, wake up again at around 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Awesome. And for me, a day in my life, I wake up 6 p.m. because basically 12-hour difference. So I wake up 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. For a few hours, I prepare my coffee. I might look at Facebook a few minutes in a day just to check if there's any messages. After that, I go immediately to my room to work. And after working 10 hours, I go down, I read the Quran, I pray. Then after that, I just train for 1 hour, 2 hours lifting, and maybe some boxing. And after that, some work again, and I eat, then I sleep, and then repeats. Nothing exciting in my life currently.
Awesome, brother.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing, man. MMA, I've seen your post, and you're actually improving a lot, man. Seeing your grappling.
Appreciate you, brother. Uh, it's the most exciting part of my day a lot of the time. But yeah, also build this business is exciting as
And
well.
people, everybody who's listening, doing MMA is 100 times harder than just lifting weights. And the cardio on that one,
Uh,
it's crazy. The patience you have to do that. I mean, the camaraderie, the brotherhood with your teammates, the people you train with, makes it a little bit easier. But at the end of the day, it's more active than just lifting weights.
I feel you. I feel you. It's yeah, it definitely requires like full focus when you're doing it because any lack of focus, any like distraction can cause you to like get hit in the eye, get injured pretty bad. So, um, yeah, I mean, I do like how, since it does require that full focus, it's like you feel fully present, um, and yeah, fully in the moment. Um, yeah, and it becomes like sort of fun, like to do it even if it hurts, or even if it's like kind of monotonous. Um, yeah, my favorite part is sparring because it's more unpredictable. Like, you don't know who you're gonna spar today. Even if you sparred that guy before, he probably got better since last time you sparred with him, so he's gonna do some different techniques he hadn't done before. So, um, yeah, and then also, in the meantime, I've been learning new techniques too, so I can implement new techniques. And the guy that I sparred with 2, 3 weeks ago, he's like, "Oh shit, this guy, fortune, doing all this different new stuff now." So it's like a new vibe, every time I spar somebody, and yeah, it's like everybody's got their own styles too. So yeah, it's very cool, I think, to be able to step in there, freaking risk, getting hurt while also like sharpening my skills and being able to hurt somebody else. Um, it's yeah, pretty exhilarating, man.
Yeah, yeah, I don't think you can do that type of thing if you're not really focused. I mean, when you're lifting weights, you
I
can be
feel you.
thinking of anything, thinking about your business, and you'll manage really. And I
Exactly.
think that's all of the topic we have for today. And people, to all the listeners, tune in for new episodes. Hopefully, for our next episode, we have few people here, a guest, and we do have some people lined up. So tune in and have a great day, everybody. You have anything to say to the viewers, Fortune, as a goodbye?
Appreciate you, brother. That's pretty much it. Thank you for tuning in and listening, and yeah, looking forward to getting you more episodes and wishing you all a great day too.
Stop.